Congratulations, you got your offer accepted and now you're on your way to buy that house. Finally, you did it. Good job. Now these are the 10 things that you need to be following as a buyer to make sure you get all the way to the closing table in Texas. So keep in mind, none of these are extremely complicated. Most of them are very simple and get step by step all the way there, but they're very important to be doing. So we recommend you write these down, either put them up on your refrigerator where you're gonna see them on a regular basis, or put them now in your calendar saying, I will do X by X date, so that you can get it done. Keep in mind, the first week or two while you're in option period is where you will be doing the most work as a buyer. So let's begin, shall we? Number one, make sure you let your team know that you have this transaction closed. All right, so who's on your team? Who are you gonna be talking with on a regular basis throughout this transaction? Of course, your realtor is on your team, your lender is on your team. You gotta make sure your inspector knows, you gotta make sure your title company knows, and you gotta make sure your insurance agent knows. All of those people should be notified the moment you get a signed contract that you are working on a signed contract to buy a house. Congrats. Number two, make sure that you provide the earnest money and the option money to the title company in a timely fashion. Typically, you want to get this done within 2 to 3 days from when that signed contract is there. If you do not get that money to them in time, then you do not have a valid contract in Texas. It is null, and the seller can back out. They can take other offers. So you make sure that you get the money there very quickly. There's a lot of choices and options for most title companies to do this electronically or remotely, but it's important that we have that money to the title company in a timely manner. Step number three, you need to make sure that you book your inspector as soon as possible. We want to know what the condition is of that home, and just like you calling your inspector last minute, wanting them to be there tomorrow, they're getting calls from other people too, and scheduling their time to make sure that they get there within your option period, get the report done and in your hands so that you can make a decision is critical. So step number three is call that inspector as soon as possible to get them on the calendar to go see the house. Step number four is to make sure that you're getting your lender the information that they need in a timely manner. Now, typically you're already got a pre-qualification or some sort of pre-approval letter. You probably sent them W-2, maybe statements, bank statements, or other information like this, but they're gonna need updated records, and they may need more information that the lender is asking them based on certain transactions in your bank account, history, work history, credit history, all that kind of stuff, right? So make sure that you are getting them that information in a timely manner along the way. Step number five is to get quotes for insurance. And in Houston, Texas, there's really two kinds of quotes that you're gonna be looking for. One is the hazard insurance. This protects you, of course, from things like wind, hail, fire, so on and so forth. And then the second is optional. Your lender doesn't always require it, but we always recommend that you at least look at it for your area, is flood insurance. And because we are prone to having more floods in Houston, it's good to get a quote for flood insurance as well. Step number six is your due diligence on the condition of the property. This is still within your option period that we're gonna be covering this step. And we're gonna review that home inspector's report. We're gonna see what repairs maybe are necessary to make it move-in ready for you or purchase ready for you, and make those requests to the seller, or at least negotiate to understand where we need to be financially so that we can get those things addressed when we move into the property or purchase that property after the sale. So condition of the property evaluation and discussion there in terms of terms and conditions of that sale. Step number seven is to confirm your budget. So what we want to have is some sort of preliminary number and preliminary understanding of how much cash you're going to need to close and how much your monthly payment, how much is your PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Fortunately, you've done all the steps already to get that information. We've given it to the lender. We can have that conversation with your lender so that you understand, right? So now 7 steps that we've gone through, all within your option period, getting that stuff done and accelerated. And now we have a little bit more of a smooth sailing as we get to the end, but these are the last few steps that you need in order to get to that closing table on a seamless fashion. Number 8 is to make sure that your home appraisal is ordered. The moment that you're out of option period, because you paid the appraiser actually to go out there, typically it's out of your pocket before the closing time, you don't want to pay an appraiser if you're going to back out of the property. But once you're past your option period, you want to make sure that that appraiser is scheduled to go out and look at that property and get that property appraised, because it's really important that the lender has all the information that they need to get to the closing table in a timely manner so that we get you closed on the date of the contract. Step number 9, we're almost at the end, is that final walkthrough of the house. Typically a day or two or so before the close, we're gonna physically go out to the property, walk through the property again, make sure that anything that was agreed to be addressed in the contract is addressed with the physical condition of the property, and that we're ready to go to closing very soon, very soon. Step number 10, you made it. We're getting now to closing day, and this is what to expect. So first of all, a couple days before closing, you should have received what's called a CD or a HUD from your lender. And this will give you a breakdown of the costs associated to both buying and also the monthly costs going forward once you close upon your home. Everything gets fine-tuned and dialed right near the end. And why is this? Because the title company is going to be working on things like taxes, what kind of exemptions you have, all that stuff, while the lender is working on, of course, the loan, the lender fees, underwriting fees, all that kind of stuff, and getting the final documents together as they prepare to get you towards closing. So you'll receive this final disclosure 3 days before closing and be ready to go to closing. Once you get to closing, you'll be signing all those documents just like you saw 3 days ago, along with a number of other forms related to purchasing the home. Now, another thing that's important is the day before or 2 days before, you want to make sure you're contacting the title company, your team member here, and talking to them, how am I going to bring the funds to purchase this property? There's usually 2 forms that are acceptable. One is a certified check or a wire transfer. Just make sure that you're calling the company, the title company, if you're doing the wire transfer, to make sure you confirm the details of the wire as to keep your wire payment secure. That's it, guys. You made it to the closing table. You closed the transactions. You've signed all the paperwork. The seller signed all the paperwork, and the keys are now in your hands. 2 quick tips for you, bonus tips. Now that you've purchased the property, don't forget to do these. 1, make sure you turn on the utilities, get them running, your gas, your electric, and water. And then last of all, make sure that you change your address. Update things like your employer, paperwork for taxes, so on and so forth. If you go to USPS, you can actually request that they forward any mail sent to you at your old address to your new address. That's it. We'll see you at the closing table.